Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Hand the Mic Over. I'm your host, Mevish, and today I have a very special guest. And in fact, she's the only person I have ever met in my life who is from this country. So without further ado, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Dill. I came to Canada back in 2012.
Thank you so much, Dill. If you don't mind, could you please share which country or countries you would say you're associated with?
I was born and grew up in Uzbekistan. I came to Canada, as I was saying, in 2012 when I was 8.5 years old.
Oh, okay, nice. So are you able to speak your native language then?
Yes, I can. I speak with my parents.
So what is the right way to say your language's name?
The language is Uzbek.
Uzbek, very nice. Are there any words in your language that I can add to my vocabulary?
I don't think you know Uzbek very much, so
Okay.
we would say, like, if you want to say hi, how are you today, it will be salam kalaysan bugun.
Hold on. Okay, let me try to say this. Salam
Kalaysan
kalaysan
bugun.
bukun. Salam kalaysan bukun.
Yes, getting there.
I can now greet someone in Uzbek. Thank you for teaching me this new skill. So, Dil, could you share with us where in the world Uzbekistan is located? Like maybe which continent or what countries surround it?
Uzbekistan is in Central Asia. It was actually part of the Soviet Union. Our second language is actually Russian. The countries around it is like Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan. Just a little part of Afghanistan is attached to Uzbekistan. And Tajikistan, if anybody knows, it's more of the istans surrounding the country. And it's a really small country, so I'm not shocked when somebody says, I don't know the country. And when I tell people that I'm from Uzbekistan, they usually say Pakistan because it kind of sounds similar and they don't hear the first half of the country, which is Uzbek. So, yeah, it's in Central Asia.
Oh, I had no idea about that. I wonder if other people from Uzbekistan can relate to that.
Well, I haven't really heard anybody because I don't really have any Uzbek friends in Canada. But I've seen videos on TikTok or Instagram. They would be like, they had the same situation. So people who lived in US or in Canada, they had the same life as me, basically. They also tell people that it's Uzbekistan, but they know it as Pakistan.
Well, I hope that people who listen to this podcast are able to understand and no longer mistake Uzbekistan for Pakistan.
Correct.
Alrighty, so let's jump a little more into your background story. So I know you mentioned that you came here when you were around 8.5, and I was just wondering, what was your life in Uzbekistan like before you came here? Do you have any memories of your life there? Any childhood experiences you'd like to share with us?
Honestly, I don't really remember anything because I was young, and honestly, before 5 years old, I don't really remember anything because it was kindergarten. It was just playing, having fun and stuff. So I finished grade one in there. I was actually one of the smartest students back then, and I was lonely, so that didn't change much. My dad was in US, so I used to talk to my dad through the phone a lot. That's all I can remember from childhood.
Oh, wow. So did you grow up in like a city environment in Uzbekistan, or was it more rural, suburban? What was your neighborhood sort of like?
I would say it was a kind of like a village, but it's not really a village because we had animals, we had cows, we had sheep, we had everything. But it's not really a city either. But we did live on the edge of the region.
I see. So when you left Uzbekistan and came to Canada, did you come directly to Toronto?
Yes, I did.
What was that transition like, coming from, living at the edge of a city, kind of a half farmland, to landing in the middle of a very urban city that is so populated?
It was shocking because, like I was saying, I haven't seen my dad. My dad actually met us here in Canada, so I haven't seen him until that period of time. And I was shocked. Like the only words I knew was just hi, hello, bye, thank you. That's literally just it. It was hard to blend in because I didn't know the language. I was in ESL for a few years. Seeing like tall buildings, like I haven't even imagined Canada. Honestly, when my mom's like, we're going to Canada, I don't think I even imagined how Canada would look like. I was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to my dad. That's the only thing I could remember. Like I was saying, it's a lot of like big buildings, and I don't really see much of the buildings back home back then.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. It was your first time meeting your dad. Was it also your first time leaving Uzbekistan?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of firsts were going on at such a young age.
Yes. First
Do
time
you
going on a
remember?
plane, everything first time.
Speaking of firsts, do you remember what your first day of school was like?
First day of school. I kind of do. I was in grade three when I came. It was like October, November, I think, of 2012. Like I was saying, I was lonely. So my teacher set me up with two girls. We became friends for a while, but then those were the only people I could talk to. But I didn't know English much, so it was kind of hard. And then later on, we became not being my friends. So I would just like at the side, just in recess times, I would just be standing around, looking at people playing. And yeah, so
Oh, I was gonna ask, how were you able to communicate with your friends over here, or were you just able to pick up on speaking English very quickly?
I was a really like fast learner at that time, and I still am.
Mhm.
I was in ESL for a few years, and the ESL teacher obviously helped me. And I used to read a lot of books so I can improve my English and stuff. How did I communicate with people? It's not really through ESL. It's actually, I don't really go up to people, but I had this friend who still is my friend. Her name is Arij. She actually came up to me and talked to me because she knew I was lonely. And we became friends. And she had a small group of friends, so we all became friends after
Oh,
that.
oh, that's so sweet. And you guys are still friends. That's amazing.
We lost contact for a while, but now we're friends again.
I love that. I hope she knows what a big impact she had on you back then.
I hope that too, honestly. Yeah, like I mean, I don't really see her anymore, but with my group of friends nowadays, when we just meet up randomly, and I like that.
Oh, that's so good to hear. You mentioned a bit earlier that you don't know anyone from Uzbekistan personally who lives in Canada. Do you know of any areas in Toronto or Canada where people who come from Uzbekistan tend to settle in?
I don't really know the exact place, but nowadays there are a lot of Uzbeks just here and there. I just don't know where they're really located in Toronto, but I know there are a lot.
Well, I can't even imagine coming to a new country, not knowing the language, and having to settle and adjust all over again. There must have been some positives for coming to Canada or coming to Toronto, like seeing your dad for the first time. What was that like?
Not that I've imagined, honestly, because online it's different, and in person it's completely different. I was super happy, but also very confused. And I still have the video from the airport on my first day when I first came. And I
Mhm.
look at that and I know I look very confused and shocked. And like I have so many like mixed emotions at that time.
That's a pretty deep experience to go through at such a young age.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that when you first came to Toronto, you felt like you were very lonely and you didn't really have a lot of friends, but then slowly you started making more friends and finding your groove. At what point would you say you started to feel like you were a Canadian or someone from Toronto?
Well, that took a while to adjust to this country and blend in. After elementary school, I think I was becoming more Canadian, but
Mhm.
during elementary school, part of me was still actual Uzbek. I don't think I was able to blend, but it didn't take that long to communicate and, have the mindset of Canadians, but like inside, I would be like, nah, I don't think I belong here. But now I do think I belong here and not back home. Every time I go back home, I went back home this year, it doesn't feel like home anymore. During elementary school, I feel like Uzbekistan was my home. After elementary school, I felt more Canadian.
Okay, as you started to adjust in Canada, what would you say was your community that you felt like you were a part of? What did your group that you joined have in common with you?
Honestly, my group of friends are from different country too, like Pakistan. I have friends from Afghanistan, but they came long, long time ago, or some of them were born here, or their parents were here for a long time, so they have more of a Canadian mindset. And honestly, the teachers I've had in school, they were more Canadian. I was like, okay, well, if they're Canadian and their mindset is passing on to me, like the way they talk, the way they act, that affected me. And my group of friends, even if they're from outside of the country, they've been here longer than I was. That's how I started becoming more Canadian.
So there wasn't really anything that everyone had in common with each other that you felt like you could latch on to. Okay.
No, not really. It kind of went naturally. I didn't really force myself to do anything, or I wasn't like, oh, they're doing this, so I have to do this too. No, I think it was more natural. It's like baby steps. Nothing came like boom. there you go, you have to be Canadian. No, it was just slowly, slowly, slowly.
Yeah, I'm sure being a kid and coming here at such a young age, you're already growing and you're going through so many changes in your life that this would have become another one of those changes.
Yeah. When I came as a kid, obviously when you're a kid, it's easier for everything, you know, but like if I came at this age, it will be harder for me to change my mindset or change everything in me. So I think coming here when I was 8 years old was actually a good thing than a negative thing.
I love that you have such a positive mindset about everything.
Yeah.
It's a great outlook on life. Okay, so I wanted to get more into Uzbekistani representation in Toronto or in Canada. Was there ever a time where you felt like your culture was not included in school or at work or in any other environment? Or you felt like your culture was not being represented properly here?
Oh, I feel like my country is never represented anywhere, honestly. Not even just my country. You know how schools would have the cultural day or something like that, and everyone
Hmm.
would dress up? I would see a lot of people dressing up the same or having the same food, and I would just be sitting there because I don't have anyone around me who has not even similar stuff closer to my culture. I would be kind of sad. I've never had Uzbek people or any Turk country people because Uzbekistan was still considered as Turk people. So
Hmm.
I've never seen any Turk people around me, I would say.
You said that you felt sad not seeing your culture being represented and not really having people around you who could share your culture with you. So, do you think that in that area there was something different that could have been done that your child self could have benefited from in terms of cultural representation?
I don't know. I can't really be like, hey, every Uzbek come here. Or I can't tell my parents to be like, hey, can we find an Uzbek community and move there or somewhere, anything like that. So no, I really couldn't do anything about that. I just had to just blend in.
Right. As your adult self, if you could go back in time and make some sort of suggestions toward helping your child self be able to adjust more easily or feel more included in school, what would be some suggestions that you would give your teachers or your principal or anyone in your school?
That I really don't know because I'm more of a shy person, so I wouldn't really ask anyone to do anything for me. I couldn't even dress up in my cultural stuff, clothing, or have cultural accessories or anything like that. So honestly, I wouldn't say or do anything, even now.
I guess a lot of schools then need to hear this podcast and, hear your story to be able to include Uzbekistan and other Turk area country cultures into their environment. I mean, for me, growing up in Toronto, I don't think I ever saw any Uzbekistani culture representation or even just that region of Central Asia at all. Honestly, you're the only Uzbekistani person that I know.
I think the same thing. I mean, I've met Uzbek people. We used to have two Uzbek family friends, but they
Mhm.
moved away. So, and then we lost
Oh,
contact again.
oh, that's so sad. Did they have any kids around your age?
Not really my age, but like they were 2 years younger than me. So
Okay.
after they moved away, I was again, once again, lonely.
Oh, so you lost again that connection to your culture.
Yes.
If someone was hypothetically traveling to Uzbekistan, say me, for example, what is something different from Toronto culture or Canadian culture that they should keep an eye out for?
I can go on and on about this because Canadians are very nice, but they also don't really go up to anybody and be like, "Hey, how are you?" You know. But Uzbeks, as soon as you land there, the first thing you're gonna see is like a bunch of Uzbeks coming at your face and be like, "Hey, how are you?" Something, something, something. It's not like because you're like foreign, maybe because you're from a different place, but even if you were Uzbek and you go to Uzbekistan, they're very kind, they're generous, they would offer you food, like they would do anything just to make you happy. And they would never have like frowny face or anything. They would always be have the happiest face. And if you visit their house, they will make sure that you're having the best day of your life.
So, a lot of hospitality over there.
Yes.
No one ever mentions Uzbekistan when talking about tourism in Asia or Central Asia. And the fact that it's so developed and so beautiful, just from the pictures that I'd seen, it looks like such a great vacation destination. But that's why I was like even more surprised that it was so developed and so pretty because I've never heard anyone talk about it. For example, I heard that Uzbekistan has a whole subway system that's developed underground.
It's big and beautiful. When I went this year and last year, I went down. There's literally architectures in the subway, and it's so beautiful. It's like cultural architectures.
If you have any pictures from your trip of the beauty of the architecture or even just the nature, anything from the country, we would love to be able to post that on our Instagram. I feel like that would be a really nice way to be able to see what your country looks like and be able to share it with everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. So we're approaching the last part of the interview, which is going to focus a little more about what Uzbekistan culture is like. We got a little bit into cultural clothing earlier, but let's get into the specifics. What kind of cultural clothing comes from your country?
It's completely different than any other cultures. Turks have very similar clothing and accessories, but from like Pakistan, it's completely different from Pakistan. We have a clothing called Atlas. It's silk and it has a lot of blue patterned or red. The red pattern is most popular if you look at the pictures. And they have a head accessories. It's not really a hat for women. We call it doppe. It's like a hat, but it's square and it just stays on top of your head. And we also have that for men. But for men, we don't really have a lot of cultural clothing, not that I've seen or not that we usually wear. But women wear a lot of atlas and they would have a matching pair of shoes. If you go to weddings, right now it's modernized. We don't really wear like atlas or something similar to that in weddings. But at home, they wear like literally like the neckline is always glittered or some kind of glitter is going on in their clothing. And they wear this at home and outside. If they go shopping, if they go anywhere, they would wear it unless they're from the city because the city is modernized now. And we don't really wear handbags. Like they will have a really big shopping bag.
Oh, interesting. Is there a name for that shopping bag?
No, it's just a regular shopping bag and it's really big.
Well, if you have any pictures, we would love to again post at our Instagram so that people can see what authentic traditional Uzbekistan clothing looks like.
Yes. Real Uzbeks actually still wear that. Usually it's the old people. The young ones are more like how Canadians wear stuff or Europeans wear. But old people still wear cultural stuff.
Do you have any clothing at home that's traditional?
I don't really have that type, but I have something very similar that I brought last year.
You know what could be causing young people to be turning away from that more traditional outfit or the cultural clothing and wearing more Western clothing?
Social media, I would say.
Yeah, social media has definitely changed a lot of cultures.
Younger generations wear it too, but only in the house, not outside of the house.
Oh, okay. So it's just gradually changing.
Yes, older generations wear like velvet stuff, baggy velvet clothing, but with lots of glitter. But that's also something that we used to wear back in the days as well. Velvet was very popular.
Is velvet clothing the more fancy sort of clothing from Uzbekistan
Yeah,
for your culture?
kinda.
Sounds beautiful. So, what about a dish? Do you have any favorite menu item from Uzbekistan?
We have a lot of Uzbek dishes. Some of them actually originated from like different countries, but we make it a little bit different. It's still kind of like our food. The most common one that every city, every region, every part of Uzbekistan has is it's called osh. It's just rice with carrots and a lot of meat. And it's very oily. Some places make it a little bit, I mean, not dry, but it's not that oily. And we make it everywhere. If you have weddings, the first thing that comes to mind is osh. Most men in Uzbekistan go early morning after Fajr namaz, right? They go out to a place called Chayhana, which is actually just a small restaurant or cafe. They actually go there just to eat ash in early morning. And that's how they are very fat. I'm kidding, no.
Wait, so Osh is at breakfast, lunch, dinner, wedding, just every time food?
Yes, especially the men. Oh my god, like their stomach is so big because they go every morning for ash, but they don't like digest it, you know?
I feel like that's common in every culture. Even in Toronto, instead of Osh, it's junk food, I guess.
Yeah.
And what about your favorite dish?
I have a lot of favorite, but not ash. I like something called chuchvara. It's kind of like dumplings, but it's very small and quantity is a lot and it has meat in it, but sometimes it can have vegetables in it too.
Is this a snack item or is it a main dish?
It's a food for lunch or dinner.
Is there anything on the side to dip it with or some sort of sauce that it's served with?
No, we eat a lot of salads. The most common is a regular salad, which is just tomato, cucumber, onion, and a lot of salt.
Sounds very healthy.
Yeah, that part is healthy.
Is there any spot in Toronto that you know of where we could potentially try authentic Uzbekistan food?
Not exactly Uzbekistan food, but I know one
Mhm.
place that we used to go with my family. They're actually Uyghurs, but they're kind of like Uzbeks, so that's the only place I can think of. But like
Okay.
actual Uzbek restaurant, I haven't heard of anything like that in Toronto.
Oh, looks like there's a gap in the market, Dill. If you ever want to start a restaurant, start a business.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we were, I hope I said that right.
Everybody knows these people. They're the Muslims from China. We just say Uyghurs. English people say something else. They're very much like Uzbeks.
Even though they're not in the immediate surrounding countries around Uzbekistan, their culture is still very similar to Uzbekistan.
Yes, history says that they are Uzbek, but they're just a little bit different.
Oh, so did they migrate to China from Uzbekistan?
I don't really know their history, but apparently their language is 90 something percent similar, and their food is the same exact thing, except they're in China.
Oh wow, so if you ever plan a trip to that region of China, then you can probably have no problem speaking with the people there, enjoying the food. There's a connection between the two.
Our history says that we are actually Mongolian mix. I don't really know my genes, but Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan, we actually understand each other a little bit. It's like saying there's a lot of Arabs, right? And but there's Lebanese Arabs, there's Egyptian Arabs,
Mhm.
kind of like that.
What is the Uzbekistan entertainment industry like?
Movies suck. First of all, we used to make a lot of good movies. The movies are usually more cultural. It's not like Hollywood. It's completely different. It's very basic. The movies we have are usually comedy, or we don't really have new movies. They're making a lot of new series, but it's very boring and it doesn't really go with our culture. But the old movies, they're amazing. It's more of the movies are made in village. It's not really westernized or anything like that. And the music, we have a lot of instruments playing. In every music there's drums and there's guitars, but it's not like boring. It's mostly pop music.
I know one Uzbek song, and you can probably guess which one I know.
I think I do.
Boy Alum,
Yes.
such a boss. I mean, it's so catchy, and the video blew my mind when I saw it. I was not expecting the plot twists.
It's a pretty old music now. What's going on in that music video?
Oh yeah, first time when I watched it, I was a kid, so a lot of that stuff flew over my head. But like for example, the way that music video was filmed, is that what more recent films are like today?
No, the music videos nowadays is completely different. I mean, music videos are good. I actually enjoy watching them more than the movies because the movies are very boring. It's really confusing sometimes. But the music videos are really good and it's not how they used to do. It's better than the movies.
Okay, so is there any specific movie from back in the day that you would recommend people check out?
There's one that I really enjoy watching. I mean, it's pretty sad, but it's one of the very old movies back in the 2010 maybe. It's called Kalp Kuze. It's sad. It's just about two friends liking the same guy. And one of the friends go blind. So there's two men and two women. They're boyfriends and girlfriends. One of them goes blind and then the guy leaves her.
Oh no.
And it's pretty sad.
Wait. Are we getting some spoilers here?
Yes, I'm trying not to, but I'm just gonna stop there. She's gonna go blind. It is sad, but I really like that movie. And we have some sad movies, but I enjoy that too. But before that, way back, like mid 1900s, it was more comedy movies than sad.
Were Uzbek movies black and white back then, or were they in color?
Not really black and white, but it had a little bit color.
Oh, so the golden age of Uzbek cinema.
Yes.
Do you think the movie stars of Uzbekistan today are at the same level of fame as the stars from back then, or is it different now?
They're really different. They're doing their job. Like the way they act right now suits the generation now. If they were to act out the movies from old times, it's gonna be like completely different.
Well, that concludes our interview. I just want to thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me and sharing all this information about Uzbekistan today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I was really happy to do this.
I learned so much today, and I can't wait to test out my new Uzbek skills whenever I go to Uzbekistan someday.
Yeah. Nowadays, people want to go out of the country. So, like the younger generation, they know English. So, it's not really that hard to communicate. Out of the 5 people, at least one person can speak English a little bit.
Oh, really? That's good to know. So, I can actually plan on communicating with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, in Uzbek, how do I say bye?
There's 2 ways. Hayır, which is just bye, or there's görüşünce, which is see you next time.
Okay, the first one, higher? It sounds so much like hi.
Except it's Hayr, hayır.
Higher. Okay. And the second one sounds a little complicated for me, so I think I'll just stick to the first one. Alright, Dil, higher. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
That concludes this episode of Hand the Mic Over. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting our podcast. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Hand the Mic Over, or check us out on Spotify, also Hand the Mic Over. If you'd like to see some pictures and hear some music from today's podcast, then check us out on Instagram. Our handle is Hand the Mic Over.